大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。今天要说的这个人，他做了一只10公尺高的蜘蛛，把它放在世界各大美术馆门口，然后说：“这是我的妈妈。”你没有听错，那只蜘蛛是他的妈妈，她叫路易斯·布尔乔亚 （Louise Bourgeois），一个用艺术消化了一整个人生的女人。很多人知道她的蜘蛛，却不知道她花了几十年的时间才被世界看见。75岁，今天我们就来说说她的故事，一个关于童年、关于创伤、关于把伤口变成艺术的故事。1911年12月25日，路易斯·布尔乔亚出生在法国巴黎，生日刚好是圣诞节。他后来说自己从来不太庆祝生日，因为全世界都在过圣诞节，根本没有人记得那一天也是他的生日。他的家庭从事古董织毯的修复工作，父母在巴黎南边的小镇有一间工作室，生意做得相当不错。小路易斯从小就在工作室里长大，他的工作是修补织毯，那些被虫吃了或者撕破的部分，需要有人用细线一针一针地补回去。他说他的手很小，可以做那些大人做不了的细密工作，但这个家庭有一个秘密，让小路易斯花了一辈子的时间才消化。他的父亲有一个情妇，那个情妇不是藏在外面的，他就住在他们家里，名义上是担任孩子的英语家教。路易斯的父亲把那个女人带回家，让她住在他们家，还让路易斯叫她萨比。你可以想象一下这个画面，一个小女孩，每天看着这个女人坐在她家的餐桌前，看着她和她的父亲说说笑笑，而她的母亲就坐在另一端，保持沉默。这个情况持续了将近10年，一直到萨比离开这个家庭。路易斯的母亲在那段时间非常不快乐，她的身体也越来越差。最后在路易斯21岁那年，他的母亲去世了。这两件事，父亲的背叛和母亲的离去，在路易斯心里留下了一个深深的伤口，而且这个伤口没有愈合，他只是藏了起来，等着被挖出来。路易斯后来在巴黎学习艺术。1938年，他认识了美国艺术史学家罗伯特·戈伯，两人很快结婚。她跟着丈夫移居纽约，开始了她在美国的生活。纽约的艺术圈在那个年代非常活跃，抽象表现主义正在兴起，艺术界充满了辩论和实验的气氛。路易斯开始了自己的创作，但他走的路和那个时代的主流不一样。他没有去画大幅的抽象画布，他用的是不同的材料，橡胶、钢铁、大理石，后来还有织物。他做的是雕塑。他的早期作品已经带有一种独特的气质，那些作品有时候像有机的生命体，有时候又带着一种说不清楚的威胁感，不是纯粹的美，而是美和不安同时存在的东西。他在1940年代和50年代办了几场展览，但反应并不热烈。纽约的艺术界对他的作品没有太大的兴趣，批评者要么不理解，要么觉得太怪。在那个年代，女性艺术家本来就不容易被认真对待，路易斯更是做着一众让人看不懂的东西。他没有停止，他继续创作，一边养育3个儿子，一边维持家庭的日常，一边在自己的工作室里，一个人和那些材料相处。他说创作对他来说是一种生存的方式，不是为的是让别人看，是因为如果不做，他不知道那些东西要去哪里。那些东西是神魔，就是那些他从童年带来的记忆，父亲的背叛，母亲的沉默，萨比住在家里的那10年，那些如果不做成神魔就会在心里爆炸的东西。他后来说，艺术是一种保护。他说，如果不是艺术，我不知道我会变成神魔。1970年代，女性主义艺术运动开始在美国兴起，女性艺术家开始被更认真地对待，路易斯的作品也开始引起更多关注。但真正让她跃上世界舞台的，是1982年，纽约现代美术馆 Maman 为她举办了一个大型回顾展。那一年，路易斯·布尔乔亚71岁，那个展览让整个艺术界重新认识了她。评论家说她是一个被忽略了太久的声音，说她的作品有一种别人没有的深度和诚实，说她把最个人的东西做成了最普世的艺术。但更大的转折在1999年，那一年，伦敦泰特现代美术馆开馆，他们邀请路易斯·布尔乔亚成为涡轮厅第一位展出艺术家。涡轮厅是那个美术馆最大的空间，相当于几个足球场的大小。要填满那个空间，需要一个非常非常大的东西。路易斯带来了一只蜘蛛，高度超过9公尺，名字叫做妈妈 Maman。那只蜘蛛用钢铁做的，8条腿，每一条腿都细长的让人觉得不安。但在蜘蛛的身体下面有一个网袋，里面装住26颗大理石蛋。那个画面让很多观众站在那里说不出话来。那只蜘蛛是保护的，还是威胁的？你说不清楚，两者都是。路易斯说蜘蛛是他妈妈最好的比喻。他说他的妈妈就像蜘蛛一样，聪明，有耐心，知道怎么修补破洞的网。而他的妈妈是一个修织毯的女人，修补破损，让东西重新完整。但蜘蛛也是让你感到恐惧的生物，那种说不清楚的不安，也在他的记忆里。因为母亲的死让他失去了他唯一的安全感，所以那只蜘蛛里面有2件事，爱和失去，保护和恐惧，同时存在，就像真实的母女关系一样。这件作品后来在世界各地巡回展出，东京、首尔、毕尔包、渥太华，每到一个地方都引起巨大的回响。现在在世界各地有6座妈妈的永久收藏，包括首尔的3星美术馆、加拿大的渥太华国家美术馆、西班牙的古根汉美术馆。一只蜘蛛出现在世界各地的广场和美术馆前，每一次让人停步，让人抬头，让人问自己那是什么感觉。路易斯说他从来不解释自己的作品。他说，如果你感觉到了什么，那个感觉就是对的，没有标准答案。除了蜘蛛，他还做了很多让人印象深刻的作品。他做了一系列叫做细胞的装置作品，每一个细胞是一个封闭的空间，里面有各种物件，旧衣服、玻璃瓶，有时候是一张床，有时候是一面镜子。那些细胞是记忆的容器，是那些他一直带在身上的东西。他说每一个人都有这样的细胞，那些封闭的记忆空间，你进不去也出不来。他也做过一系列关于女性身体的作品，直接，有时候令人不安，用身体的语言说那些无法用言语说的事。他在90岁出版了一本手册，用手写的，里面有素描，有文字。他说那是他对自己一生的总结，用他自己的手，一笔一画。他在2010年5月31日去世，享年98岁。在他生命的最后几十年，他每个礼拜天都在他的纽约工作室举办沙龙。他坐在椅子上，年轻的艺术家和学生围住他。他说话，他问问题，他批评，他鼓励。那些来过的人说那是他们最难忘的记忆之一。一个90几岁的老太太，思路清晰，态度犀利，毫不客气地说她觉得神魔是真的艺术，神魔是在骗人，他从来不假装。这也许是他整个艺术生涯最一致的地方，从最开始就不假装。他有一句话我一直记得，他说艺术是一种对恐惧的保证，不是说艺术让你不害怕，而是说艺术是一个你可以把恐惧放进去的地方。放进去之后，它就不再只是把你压垮的东西了，它变成了一个可以被看见的东西，一个可以让别人理解的东西。75岁才被世界看见，他从不在意。他说他一直在工作，看不看见是别人的事。这让我想到一件事，我们常常以为要被看见才算数，要有掌声才值得继续。但路易斯·布尔乔亚用他的一生告诉我们，在没有掌声的那几十年里， 她还是在工作，那份工作是真实的，不管有没有人看见。也许这就是创作的本质，你做它，不是因为别人要看，而是因为你需要做它。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I'm Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. Today I want to tell you about someone who made a spider 10 meters tall. She placed it outside the doors of the world's greatest museums. And then she said, "This is my mother." You heard that right. That spider is her mother. Her name was Louise Bourgeois, a French-American artist who spent a lifetime turning her past into art. Many people know her spider. But most people do not know that she spent decades working before the world paid attention. She was 75 years old when that changed. Today we walk through her story. A story about childhood. About trauma. About what it means to transform a wound into something the world can see. Louise Bourgeois was born on December 25, 1911, in Paris. Her birthday fell on Christmas Day. She later said she never really celebrated her birthday, because the whole world was already celebrating something else on that day. And nobody remembered it was also hers. Her family ran a workshop that restored antique tapestries. Her parents had a business repairing old woven works, pieces damaged by time, by insects, by tearing. The workshop was in a town south of Paris. It was a good business. Little Louise grew up inside that workshop. Her job was to repair the tapestries. The damaged sections, the holes, the frayed edges, needed someone to draw them back together with fine thread. She said her hands were small enough to do the delicate work the adults could not manage. But this family had a secret. One that would take Louise a lifetime to digest. Her father had a mistress. And this mistress was not kept somewhere out of sight. She lived in their house. She was brought in under the pretense of being an English tutor for the children. Louise's father brought this woman home. He had her live with them. And he expected Louise to call her Sadie. Imagine this as a child. Every day watching this woman sit at your family's dining table. Watching her talk and laugh with your father. While your mother sat at the other end. In silence. This situation lasted for nearly 10 years. Until Sadie eventually left. Louise's mother was deeply unhappy throughout those years. Her health declined steadily. She died when Louise was 21. These two things, her father's betrayal and her mother's death, left a wound in Louise that did not close. It did not disappear. It only went inward, where it waited to be excavated. Louise went on to study art in Paris. In 1938 she met the American art historian Robert Goldwater. They married quickly and she moved with him to New York. The New York art world of that era was intensely alive. Abstract expressionism was rising. The atmosphere was full of argument and experiment. Louise began making work of her own. But the direction she took was different from the dominant movements around her. She did not paint large abstract canvases. She used different materials. Rubber. Steel. Marble. Later, fabric. She made sculpture. Her early work already had a distinctive quality. Some pieces felt like organic life forms. Others carried a quality of unease that was hard to name. Not pure beauty, but beauty and anxiety existing simultaneously in the same object. Through the 1940s and 1950s she showed her work a number of times. The response was limited. The New York art world was not particularly interested. Critics either did not understand her or found the work too strange. In that era, women artists were rarely taken seriously to begin with. And Louise was making things that people genuinely could not categorize. She did not stop. She continued working. Raising 3 sons. Running a household. And spending time alone in her studio. Just her and the materials. She said making things was a way of surviving. Not for anyone else to look at. Because if she did not make them, she did not know where those things would go. What things? The memories she had been carrying since childhood. Her father's betrayal. Her mother's silence. The 10 years of Sadie living in their house. The things that, if not made into something, would detonate inside her. She said later, art is a form of protection. If it were not for art, I do not know what I would have become. In the 1970s, feminist art movements began rising across America. Women artists were starting to be taken more seriously. Louise's work began drawing greater attention. But the moment that truly brought her onto the world stage came in 1982. The Museum of Modern Art in New York, MoMA, mounted a large retrospective exhibition of her work. That year, Louise Bourgeois was 71 years old. The exhibition caused the art world to look at her again, as if for the first time. Critics said she was a voice that had been overlooked for far too long. They said her work had a depth and honesty that was unlike anything else. They said she had taken the most personal material imaginable and made it universal. But the largest turning point came in 1999. That year, the Tate Modern in London opened its doors. They invited Louise Bourgeois to be the first artist to exhibit in the Turbine Hall. The Turbine Hall is the museum's largest space, the size of several football fields combined. To fill it required something very, very large. Louise brought a spider, over 9 meters tall. She called it Maman, the French word for mother. The spider was made of steel, 8 legs, each one long and thin in a way that carried a subtle threat. But beneath the spider's body hung a pouch of wire mesh. Inside the mesh were 26 marble eggs. Many visitors who stood beneath that structure found themselves unable to speak. Was the spider protecting you? Or threatening you? Both at once. You could not separate them. Louise said the spider was the perfect image for her mother. She said her mother was like a spider. Patient. Intelligent. Capable of repairing a broken web. And her mother had been a woman who repaired tapestries. She mended what was damaged. She made broken things whole again. But a spider is also a creature that produces unease. That quality of discomfort was also part of her memories. Because her mother's death had taken away the only source of safety she had ever known. So inside the spider there were 2 things at once. Love and loss. Protection and fear. Existing together. Exactly as they do in a real relationship between a mother and a daughter. The work traveled to cities around the world. Tokyo. Seoul. Bilbao. Ottawa. Everywhere it went, it drew enormous crowds and deep responses. Today there are 6 permanent versions of Maman installed at major institutions around the world, including the Samsung Museum of Art in Seoul, the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa, and the Guggenheim Bilbao in Spain. One spider, standing in public squares and museum forecourts on multiple continents, making people stop, making people look up, making people ask themselves what they are feeling. Louise said she never explained her work. She said if you feel something, that feeling is the correct response. There is no single right answer. Beyond the spider, she created many other works that have stayed with people. She made a series of installations called cells. Each one was an enclosed space. Inside were different objects. Old clothing. Glass bottles. Sometimes a bed. Sometimes a mirror. Those cells were containers for memory. The things she had always carried with her. She said every person has cells like these. Closed-off spaces of memory. Places you cannot easily enter or leave. She also created a body of work dealing directly with the female body. Unflinching. Sometimes unsettling. Using the language of the body to say what words could not reach. At 90 she published a book made by hand. Drawings and handwritten text. She said it was her summary of her own life. Written in her own hand, 1 line at a time. She died on May 31, 2010. She was 98 years old. In the final decades of her life she held Sunday salons at her New York studio. She sat in a chair. Young artists and students gathered around her. She talked. She asked questions. She criticized. She encouraged. With total directness and no pretense. People who came said those Sunday mornings were among the most memorable experiences of their lives. A woman in her 90s, mind completely clear, saying exactly what she thought was real art and what was not. She never pretended. That may have been the single most consistent quality of her entire artistic life. She said once, art is a guarantee against fear. Not that art makes you unafraid. But that art is a place where you can put your fear. And once you put it there, it is no longer only something that crushes you. It becomes something that can be seen. Something that others can understand. She was not discovered until she was 75. She did not care. She said she had been working all along. Whether anyone was looking was not the point. This makes me think of something. We often believe that being seen is what makes things count. That applause is what justifies continuing. But Louise Bourgeois, through the decades when no one was paying attention, kept working. And that work was real. Whether or not anyone was watching. Perhaps that is the nature of making things. You do it not because others want to see it. You do it because you need to. See you next time.